Code of the Heart. Part 1. The Debugging of Destiny. Arjun Mehta had his life perfectly optimized. Wake up at 6 a.m., gym by 6:30, shower, breakfast at the mess, and then straight to the computer science department at IIT Bombay by 8. His daily routine ran like a well-compiled program. No bugs, no exceptions, no unexpected outputs. At least that's what he thought until the day his perfectly ordered life encountered a variable he hadn't accounted for. It was a typical Mumbai monsoon morning, the kind where the rain didn't just fall but attacked with purpose. Arjun sprinted across the IITB campus, his backpack held overhead in a futile attempt to stay dry, when he collided with what felt like a human-shaped wall. More accurately, he collided with someone, sending papers, books, and what appeared to be an entire semester's worth of case studies flying into the air like confetti at a very wet, very unplanned party. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Arjun stammered, immediately dropping to his knees to help gather the soggy papers. "Great, just great," came a voice that somehow managed to sound melodious even while dripping with sarcasm. "Do you have any idea how long it took me to print all of these?" Arjun looked up and felt his breath catch. The girl standing before him, hair plastered to her face, mascara slightly smudged, should have looked like a disaster. Instead, she looked like she'd just stepped out of one of those indie music videos his roommate was always watching. She wore a kurti that was now clinging to her frame, and her eyes, even narrowed in annoyance, were the most expressive brown he'd ever seen. I can help you reprint them?" he offered weakly, holding up a paper that now looked like abstract art thanks to the running ink. She snatched it from his hand. "At the SOM building? Do you have any idea what the printing costs there? Unlike you CS guys with your fancy lab budgets, we actually have to pay for things." "SOM?" Arjun asked, confused. "Shailesh J. Mehta School of Management," she said slowly, as if explaining to a child. "You know, where those of us who don't speak in Python learn about the real world." Arjun felt his hackles rise despite his guilt. "The real world? You mean where people use PowerPoint? At least we know how to present our ideas to actual human beings instead of just computers." They stood there in the pouring rain, glaring at each other, surrounded by the remains of her assignments. Then, perhaps because of the absurdity of the situation, or because a particularly large drop of water chose that moment to fall from a nearby tree directly onto Arjun's head, they both started laughing. "I'm Meera," she said, extending a wet hand. "Meera Sharma, first-year MBA. Arjun Mehta, third-year computer science." He shook her hand, noting how small it felt in his. "And I really am sorry. Let me buy you chai, and maybe help you recreate whatever disaster I just caused?" Meera looked at him appraisingly, then at her ruined papers, then back at him. "Chai? Yes. Your help? We'll see if someone who thinks in ones and zeros can understand marketing strategy. I'll have you know that thinking in binary is far more complex than—" Arjun started, but Meera was already walking toward the nearest tea stall, her kurta making squelching sounds with each step. He followed, wondering why he suddenly didn't mind being late to his algorithms class for the first time in 3 years. Part 2. Debugging the Variables. The tea stall near the main gate became their unofficial meeting spot. What started as Arjun's penance for the paper incident evolved into something neither of them quite understood, but both found themselves unable to resist. "Explain to me again why you need 7 different frameworks to build a website," Meera asked one evening, dunking her third Parle Gay biscuit into her cutting chai. "It's not 7 frameworks, it's a tech stack," Arjun said patiently. "Front-end, back-end, database, authentication. So, 7 different things to do one thing?" "No, it's—" Arjun paused, considering. "Okay, when you put it that way, it does sound inefficient." "Thank you," Meera laughed. "This is why business majors exist. We streamline. By creating 40-slide PowerPoint presentations for decisions that could be made in 5 minutes? Those presentations," Meera said with mock dignity, "are called comprehensive strategic analyses. They're called padding, Arjun countered, but he was smiling. Their friendship, if that's what it was, became the subject of amused commentary among their respective friend groups. Arjun's roommate, Kartik, couldn't understand why he was spending less time at the coding club. Bro, she's from Som, Kartik said one night, as if this explained everything. They don't even have to take thermodynamics. What do you two even talk about? Arjun thought about their conversations, arguments really, about everything from whether AI would take over the world. Arjun, probably yes, but in a good way. Meera, absolutely yes, and humans would deserve it for being so stupid. To whether campus dogs prefer the humanities block because it was quieter, or because literature students shared more food. Ongoing debate. We talk about stuff, Arjun said lamely. Stuff, Kartik repeated. Dude, you're falling for her. What? No, we're just friends. She's not even my type. You have a type? Arjun didn't have a type, mainly because he'd never really thought about dating. IIT was supposed to be about securing his future, not about romance. Romance was an unplanned exception, and exceptions needed to be caught and handled. But then Meera started appearing in his peripheral vision everywhere. He'd be in the library, deep in debugging code, and he'd catch himself looking for her distinctive laugh. He'd be at the mess, and he'd automatically grab an extra samosa because she'd mentioned once that she loved them. He'd be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and he'd be composing mental arguments for their next debate. This is bad, he told his reflection one morning. This is very, very bad. His reflection, unhelpfully, just looked tired. Part 3. The Merge Conflict. Meera was having similar problems, though she'd die before admitting them to her friends. He's a CS major, she told her roommate Priya, as if this was a terminal diagnosis. Do you know what he did last week? He showed me his GitHub profile. His GitHub profile. Like I'm supposed to be impressed by his contributions to open source? Were you impressed? Priya asked, barely hiding her smile. That's not the point. So you were impressed? He has like 500 followers on GitHub. I didn't even know that was a thing. Meera, you've been talking about him for 20 minutes. I'm complaining about him. That's different. But Priya was right, and Meera knew it. Arjun had somehow become the most interesting part of her IIT experience. She'd come to IITB's management school excited about case studies and consulting, about strategy and marketing. She hadn't expected to find herself fascinated by someone who could spend hours explaining the elegance of a recursive algorithm. The problem was, they were from different worlds. Her friends made jokes about engineers with a mixture of affection and disdain. His friends probably didn't even know the management school existed. They were like parallel lines, existing in the same space but never meant to meet. Except they had met, and now they kept meeting. The situation came to a head during Mood Indigo, IIT Bombay's cultural festival. Meera was part of the organizing committee for the business conclave, while Arjun had been roped into handling the tech infrastructure. They kept running into each other, literally, in Arjun's case, since he'd apparently developed an inability to walk straight when she was around. "You're in my way," Meera said, but there was no heat in it. "You're in my way," Arjun retorted. "This is the tech area. The tech area that's blocking access to the seminar halls. The seminar halls that shouldn't be scheduled during main stage sound checks." They glared at each other, and then, as had become their habit, simultaneously broke into smiles. "This is ridiculous," Meera said. "Completely ridiculous," Arjun agreed. "Want to grab dinner after this mess? I thought you'd never ask." They ended up at the food stalls set up for the festival, sharing pani puri and arguing about whether the sweet chutney was better than the spicy one. Arjun, sweet, obviously. Meera, spicy or you're a coward. "Can I ask you something?" Arjun said suddenly, his tone shifting from playful to serious. "That depends on whether it's another question about why I haven't learned to code. Why did you choose management? You're clearly smart enough to have done engineering." Meera was quiet for a moment. "Because I like people," she said finally. "I like understanding what makes them tick, what motivates them, how to bring out the best in them. Engineering is about building things. Management is about building teams, building cultures, building futures. It's just a different kind of creation." Arjun looked at her with something like wonder. I never thought about it that way. And why did you choose CS? She asked. Because I'm terrible with people, he said, then laughed at her expression. I'm serious. Computers make sense. You input something, you get an output. It's logical, predictable. People are messy. People are interesting, Meera corrected. People are terrifying. I'm people. You're an exception. The words hung in the air between them. Arjun felt his face flush. I mean, that came out wrong. I meant an exception, Meera said softly. As in something unusual that requires special handling? As in something I didn't plan for but can't seem to properly debug? Did you just compare me to a software bug? A feature? Arjun tried desperately. An unexpected feature? Meera laughed, but her eyes were soft. Arjun, are you trying to tell me something? I think, Arjun swallowed hard, I think I'm trying to tell you that you've crashed my operating system. That's possibly the worst romantic statement I've ever heard. But it is romantic? The statement, I mean. You interpreted it as romantic? Are you asking me if I like you, or are you making a bug report? Both, Arjun said helplessly. Neither? I don't know. I'm very confused. You're very confusing. Meera looked at him, this brilliant, awkward, sweet man who thought in algorithms and spoke in code, but somehow made her laugh more than anyone she'd ever met. For a genius, you're really stupid sometimes. That's what my mother says. Your mother is right. And then, before she could overthink it, before she could create a decision matrix or a pros and cons list, she kissed him. For exactly 3 seconds, Arjun's brain shut down completely. Then it rebooted, and he kissed her back. When they finally broke apart, Arjun said, Does this mean you like me? No, I just kiss random CS majors at Mood Indigo. It's a new tradition. Sarcasm noted, but seriously. Yes, you idiot. I like you. I have no idea why, considering you once spent an hour explaining big O notation to me. You asked. But I do. So what are we going to do about it? We could date, Arjun suggested, as if he were proposing a particularly risky startup venture. Revolutionary suggestion. I've never actually dated anyone before. I gathered that from the crashed my operating system line. Hey, that was smooth. It really wasn't. But she was smiling, and her hand found his, and Arjun thought that maybe, just maybe, some exceptions were worth keeping in the code. Part 4. The Integration Testing. Dating at IIT Bombay as an interdepartment couple turned out to be more complicated than either of them had anticipated. It wasn't that anyone disapproved. It was more that their two worlds had such little overlap that creating a shared space required constant effort. Arjun tried to attend one of Meera's business plan presentations. He lasted 20 minutes before the phrases leverage synergies, paradigm shift, and circle back made him want to throw himself out the window. Meera tried to attend his hackathon. She fell asleep on his shoulder at 2 a.m. while he enthusiastically debugged a memory leak. We're terrible at this, Meera said one evening after another failed attempt to interest each other in their respective worlds. They were sitting at their usual tea stall, the Mumbai humidity making everything feel sticky and heavy. We're really bad, Arjun agreed miserably. Maybe we're too different. Maybe. They sat in silence, both thinking the same thing, that maybe liking each other wasn't enough. That maybe the universe had let them meet just to show them that some things, no matter how much you wanted them to work, simply didn't. I don't want to give up on this, Arjun said finally. On us. Neither do I, Meera admitted. But I don't want to pretend to be interested in things I'm not, and I don't want you to do that either. So what do we do? Meera thought about all the business frameworks she'd learned, SWOT analyses, Porter's 5 Forces, Blue Ocean Strategy. None of them had a section on what to do when you're falling for someone who lives in a completely different world. Then she had an idea. What if, she said slowly, we stop trying to make each other interested in our fields and instead just share what we love about them, not to convert each other, but just to understand. Like show and tell? Like sharing our passion without expecting the other person to adopt it. Arjun considered this. It went against every instinct he had. When he loved something, he wanted to deep dive into it, master it, make everyone else see its beauty. But maybe Meera was right. Maybe love wasn't about merging into one person, but about two people appreciating what made each other different. Okay, he said, but I get to go first. Part 5, The Patch. Arjun's attempt to share his passion started disastrously. He tried to explain machine learning, then recursion, then why he thought the C programming language was beautiful in its simplicity. Meera listened patiently, understood about 30%, and fell asleep during a tangent about pointers. "I'm sorry," Arjun said, gently waking her up. "I got too technical." No, Meera yawned. "It's interesting. I don't get why you love it so much. It all sounds so abstract." Arjun thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his laptop. "Let me show you something," he said. He opened his code editor and pulled up a project. "This is something I built last semester. See this code?" Meera looked at the screen full of incomprehensible text and symbols. "Not even a little bit." "This program," Arjun said, his voice soft with genuine affection, "analyzes tweets about mental health and flags concerning patterns. When it works, when someone reaches out because they saw an alert, that's when I feel like I've done something real. Code isn't abstract to me. It's a way of solving problems. It's a way of helping people, even if those people never know I exist." Meera looked at him with new understanding. "So it's not about the code itself, it's about what the code can do." "Exactly. Every function, every loop, every algorithm, they're all tools. And when you use them right, you can change someone's life, maybe even save it." For the first time, Meera saw past the jargon and the technical complexity to the heart of why Arjun loved what he did. He wasn't just a nerd playing with computers, he was someone who believed he could make the world better, one line of code at a time. "That's actually beautiful," she said quietly. "Your turn," Arjun said. Meera's attempt went better, possibly because she'd spent 2 years learning to make boring things sound interesting. "Come with me," she said, dragging him to a campus tea stall. Not their usual one, but the one near the staff quarters that was always less crowded. "Watch," she whispered. They observed for 20 minutes. Meera pointed out how the stall owner positioned items, how he remembered regular customers' orders, and how he created a sense of community with just a smile and a familiar greeting. "This uncle right here," Meera said, "probably hasn't heard of marketing strategy or customer retention, but look at what he's doing. He's created a loyal customer base. He's optimized his workflow. See how he preps the chai while taking orders? He's doing A/B testing every day, figuring out what works. Business isn't just boardrooms and PowerPoints. It's this. It's understanding human behavior. It's making people's lives a little bit better by giving them what they need before they even know they need it." Arjun watched the small operation with new eyes. He saw the patterns, the optimization, the human element that no algorithm could quite capture. "You're right," he said slowly. "I've been coming to tea stalls for 3 years and never saw any of this. Because you see systems, I see people. Neither is better, they're just different. But together," she smiled at him, "together we might actually understand the full picture." Arjun felt something click into place. "We're like front end and back end," he said excitedly. "I'm going to need you to explain that in non-nerd terms." "In web development, front end is what users see and interact with. Back end is the behind-the-scenes logic that makes it all work. You need both for a complete application. Separately, they're limited. Together, they create something functional and beautiful." "Did you just use a programming metaphor to describe our relationship?" "Yes." "That's incredibly dorky." "But accurate?" Meera laughed, "But accurate." Part 6, The Deployment. Word spread about the unlikely couple, the CS nerd and the management girl. Their respective friend groups eventually merged into one chaotic whole, with heated debates about whether humanities students really had it easier, consensus, yes, but don't say it to their faces, and whether the new institute Wi-Fi policy made any sense, consensus, absolutely not. Arjun's friends learned that not all management students were fluff, especially after Meera helped 3 of them ace their entrepreneurship assignment by actually explaining what a viable business model looked like. Meera's friends learned that not all CS majors were socially awkward, although Arjun did nothing to help this perception when he tried to explain his research project at a party and cleared the room in 5 minutes. "You have to stop doing that," Meera told him, laughing. "Doing what?" "Assuming everyone wants to hear about neural networks at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. But it's fascinating. To you, to normal people, it's a lullaby. You think I'm not normal? I think you're extraordinary, but also, yes, definitely not normal." The real test came when Arjun had to take his one mandatory management elective in his final year. He chose marketing management, mostly because Meera had taken it and could help him. The professor, Dr. Desmukh, was notorious for hating engineers. "Engineers," Dr. Desmukh announced on the first day, "think they know everything. They think business is simple. They are wrong." Arjun sank lower in his seat. The course was a nightmare. While his classmates talked about consumer behavior and brand positioning, Arjun tried to reduce everything to logic trees and decision matrices. His first assignment came back with a devastating comment. "This reads like an instruction manual, not a marketing strategy." "I don't understand what he wants," Arjun complained to Meera, who was trying not to laugh. "He wants you to think about emotions, not just logic. But decisions should be logical." "Human beings aren't logical, Arjun. We're messy and emotional and irrational. That's the whole point of marketing, understanding the irrational." "That makes no sense." "Exactly." For his final project, Arjun had to create a marketing campaign for a fictional product. He chose a new campus app that would optimize food delivery from the mess. His initial presentation was exactly what you'd expect: feature lists, efficiency metrics, technical specifications. "This is terrible," Meera said bluntly after his practice run. "What? But I covered all the requirements." "You covered all the logical requirements. You forgot the human ones. Who's going to use this app? What problem does it really solve? How will it make people feel?" They worked together for a week, Arjun learning to think about user stories instead of user inputs, about emotional benefits instead of just functional ones. Meera learned more about app development than she ever wanted to know. The final presentation was a fusion of both their worlds: Arjun's technical expertise wrapped in Meera's understanding of human motivation. Dr. Desmukh looked surprised, then impressed, then actually smiled. "Mr. Mehta," he said, "this is what I've been waiting for. An engineer who understands that technology serves people, not the other way around. Well done." Arjun floated out of the classroom. Meera was waiting outside. "I got an A," he said, disbelieving. "I know. I could hear Dr. Deshmukh's approval from the hallway. I couldn't have done it without you. I know that too. You're very cocky. I learned from the best. You should hear yourself talk about algorithms." He kissed her right there in the corridor, not caring who saw. "Thank you," he said, "for teaching me that there's more to problems than code. Thank you for teaching me that sometimes the best solutions do come from logic, and for being patient with my complete inability to understand recursion. It's really quite simple. Don't ruin the moment." Part 7. The Merger. Their final semester at IIT arrived too quickly. Arjun had a job offer from a top tech company in Bangalore. Meera had an offer from a consulting firm in Mumbai. They hadn't talked about what would happen after graduation, both avoiding the conversation like a bug they knew was there but didn't want to fix. Finally, one evening at their tea stall, properly their tea stall now, as the owner called it the engineering management couple spot, Meera broached the subject. "We need to talk about what happens next." Arjun had been dreading this conversation. "We do."
Long distance could work, Meera said, not sounding convinced. Bangalore to Mumbai isn't that far, Arjun agreed, equally unconvinced. They sat in miserable silence. This is stupid, Meera said finally. We're two smart people, we can figure this out. We're two smart people from different fields with different career paths in different cities. Okay, now you're being defeatist, that's my job. Despite everything, Arjun smiled.
What if, he said slowly, we approached this like a problem to solve instead of a disaster to avoid? I'm listening. You want to do consulting. I want to do software development. Those aren't mutually exclusive careers. They're not even city-exclusive careers. Are you suggesting we both apply for jobs in the same city? I'm suggesting we both apply for jobs in the same city that also makes sense for our careers. Bangalore has consulting firms. Mumbai has tech companies. Or, Meera said, her business brain kicking in, we think bigger. How much bigger? What if we started something together? Arjun stared at her. Like, a company? Why not? You have the technical skills, I have the business skills. We already work well together. We understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. That's insane. That's innovative. That's risky. That's entrepreneurship. Arjun's mind was racing. Every logical part of his brain said this was a terrible idea. You don't turn down a job at a top tech company. You don't start a company fresh out of college. You don't mix business with romance. But then he thought about the past year and a half, about how Meera had challenged every assumption he'd made about business, about people, about himself, about how they'd learned to speak each other's languages, to appreciate each other's worlds, about how they made each other better. What would we even build, he asked. And Meera knew she'd won. They spent the next month in a frenzy of planning. Meera built business models while Arjun built prototypes. They'd identified a gap in the market. Small businesses needed affordable, simple tech solutions, but most software was either too expensive or too complex. They could build tools that worked for actual humans, not just for tech enthusiasts. Their friends thought they were crazy. Their professors thought they were ambitious. Their parents? Their parents were a whole different challenge. You want to do what? Arjun's mother demanded over video call. Start a company, Ma. You have a job offer from one of the best companies in India and you want to throw it away? I'm not throwing it away, I'm deferring it. They said I can join in a year if this doesn't work out. And this girl? Meera. This Meera is part of this plan? She's not part of the plan, she is the plan. We're partners. There was a long pause. Then his mother sighed. Your father says to ask if you've done a risk analysis. Arjun laughed. Meera made me do 3. And it's risky, but the potential upside is worth it. Another pause. Your father also says that he met me when he had nothing but dreams and borrowed money. He says sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one. Does that mean... It means we think you're both crazy, but we'll support you. Just don't forget to eat properly. Meera's parents took more convincing. Her father was a doctor who'd always imagined his daughter in a stable corporate job. The idea of her starting a company, especially with a boyfriend, seemed reckless. But Meera had learned from the best. She created a presentation that would have made Dr. Desmukh proud, complete with market analysis, competitive positioning, financial projections, and a detailed risk mitigation strategy. You've really thought this through, her father admitted. I learned from the best, Meera said. You always told me to find something I'm passionate about. Well, I found 2 things, technology that matters and someone who makes me want to be better. Her mother smiled. That's not from any business textbook. No, Meera agreed. That's from life. Part 8. The Launch. They registered their company 2 weeks after graduation. CodeBridge Solutions, Meera's idea. She said it captured both the technical and human elements of what they were doing. They set up a tiny office in a co-working space in Mumbai, lived on Maggi noodles and cutting chai, and worked 18-hour days. It was nothing like IIT Bombay. There were no mess timings, no structured semesters, no professors to guide them. There was just them, their complementary skills, and a market that didn't care about their IIT degrees. Their first 3 client pitches were disasters. Arjun got too technical. Meera got too salesy. They contradicted each other. They disagreed on pricing. They almost gave up. "We're terrible at this," Arjun said after their 3rd rejection. "We're learning," Meera corrected. "Rome wasn't built in a day." Rome didn't have to build a sustainable business model with limited runway. Rome also didn't have you. That's not as comforting as you think it is. But slowly, painfully, they found their rhythm. Arjun learned to let Meera handle client communication. Meera learned to trust Arjun's technical judgment. They learned to fight productively, to disagree without disrespect, to challenge without crushing. Their 4th pitch landed them a small client, a local bookstore wanting to go online. It wasn't glamorous, and it barely paid enough to cover their expenses, but it was real. They worked on that project like it was the most important thing in the world. Arjun built an elegant, simple website. Meera created a marketing strategy that actually brought in customers. They delivered on time and under budget. The bookstore owner, Mrs. Kapoor, was delighted. "You two work well together," she observed. "Are you siblings?" "Partners," they said simultaneously, then looked at each other and laughed. "In business," Meera clarified. "And in life," Arjun added. Mrs. Kapoor smiled knowingly. "The best partnerships are built on trust. You two have that." She referred them to 3 other small businesses. Those referrals led to more clients. Slowly, impossibly, CodeBridge Solutions began to grow. Part 9. The Runtime. A year into their venture, they moved to a real office. Small, but theirs. They hired their first employee, then their second. Their IIT friends started taking them seriously. Some even joined them. Kartik, Arjun's former roommate, came on as lead developer. Priya, Meera's roommate, handled marketing. The company became a weird hybrid of engineering and business cultures. Technical excellence wrapped in human understanding. "This is so weird," Kartik said one day, watching Meera explain customer personas to the development team. "6 months ago, I wouldn't have cared about this stuff. Now I can't imagine building something without it." "Welcome to the dark side," Meera said cheerfully. "We have better communication skills and worse coffee." "Hey," Arjun protested, "I make good coffee." "You make strong coffee. That's different." Life settled into a new routine. Early mornings planning sprints, late nights fixing bugs, weekends doing market research. It was exhausting and exhilarating. Some days they wanted to kill each other. Other days they couldn't imagine doing this with anyone else. On their company's first anniversary, Arjun booked their old tea stall at IIT Bombay. He'd gotten permission from the campus authorities to visit, claiming it was for alumni networking, technically true if you counted networking with your girlfriend as business development. "Why are we here?" Meera asked, confused. "Because this is where it started," Arjun said. "Where I first bought you chai after destroying your assignments." "That's sweet and slightly traumatic to remember. I have something for you." He handed her a small box. Inside was a keychain, 2 interlocking pieces, one engraved with greater than less than, the universal symbol for code, and one with MBA. "Front end and back end," Meera said softly. "Neither works without the other," Arjun said. "I know we're not conventional. I know people think we're crazy for doing what we're doing, but Meera, you've taught me that the best code solves human problems, that elegance isn't just about efficiency, it's about understanding, that logic and emotion aren't opposites, they're complements." "Are you about to get mushy on me?" "Definitely. Prepare yourself." "I'm prepared. I love you. Not just for your business skills or because you make me think about things differently. I love you because you're brave enough to take risks, compassionate enough to care about people, and patient enough to deal with me explaining recursion at 2 a.m. You only did that once. Twice? Okay, twice. So, Arjun said, his voice suddenly nervous, I know we're already partners in business, but I'd like to make us partners in everything else too, officially. He pulled out another box. This one had a ring. Meera stared at it, then at him, then at the ring again. Did you just propose to me at a tea stall? At our tea stall. Is that bad? I can do it somewhere fancier. I can create a whole presentation. Arjun, shut up. Is that a yes? What do you think? I think I need explicit confirmation. I don't do well with ambiguous outputs. Meera laughed, tears in her eyes. Yes, you absolute nerd. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything. The tea stall owner, who'd been watching with undisguised interest, started clapping. Then other people joined in. Students, faculty, random people who had no idea what was happening but appreciated the drama. Arjun kissed her, tasting salt from her tears and sweetness from the chai, and thought that his life had compiled successfully after all. There had been bugs and exceptions and unexpected runtime errors, but the output was better than any code he could have written. Epilogue, version 2.0. 3 years later, CodeBridge Solutions had 50 employees, offices in Mumbai and Bangalore, and clients across India. They'd been featured in business magazines as the startup that bridges tech and humanity. Arjun gave talks at IIT Bombay about building user-centric software. Meera taught workshops on managing technical teams. Their wedding had been a chaotic blend of both worlds, coding jokes in the wedding invitation, business case study references in the speeches, and a Sangeet where the CS department battled the management school in dance-offs. The management school won, though Arjun claimed the judging was biased. They still argued about everything. Meera still thought Arjun over-engineered simple problems. Arjun still thought Meera's PowerPoints were unnecessarily detailed. But they'd learned to see these differences not as conflicts, but as complementary strengths. One evening, working late at the office, Meera looked up from her laptop. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't crashed into me that day? Literally crashed into you, Arjun said. And yes, sometimes. I'd probably be working at some tech giant, building features nobody asked for. I'd probably be at a consulting firm, creating strategies nobody would implement. Instead, we're here, building something real, something that matters, together. Arjun saved his code and closed his laptop. Want to grab chai? At the stall downstairs? Where else? They walked out together, hands intertwined, still arguing about whether tabs or spaces were superior for code indentation. Arjun, tabs. Meera, I literally don't care, and that's your problem right there. Behind them, the office hummed with activity. Developers and marketers, engineers and strategists, all working together because two people from different worlds had crashed into each other one rainy morning and decided that their differences were worth celebrating. In the end, their love story wasn't really about opposites attracting. It was about two people who spoke different languages learning to understand each other. It was about recognizing that the world needs both logic and emotion, both code and communication, both structure and flexibility. It was about debugging the notion that love has to follow a script and writing your own code instead. And if that code occasionally threw exceptions, well, they'd learn to handle those together. After all, the best programs aren't the ones that never crash. They're the ones that know how to recover gracefully, learn from errors, and keep running, stronger than before. The end.